Hi, everybody. Welcome to the 17th Annual Damn Short Film Festival. We're up to the Underground A Q&A. We have 2 undergrounds this year. This is a very unusual grouping of film. Underground, we usually combine films from many different genres. It could be a bit too racy, a bit too strange, or just out of the world and trippy. Hard to say. I'm one of the co-founders of the festival and also one of the programmers. And for the Underground program, 3 of us lead programmers joined together. So it's myself, who programmed sci-fi, horror, and animation, Anita Lanier, who programmed drama, and Svetlana Stefanova, who programmed comedy, Nevada, and music video. So this is a cumulative effort of our work. We have a couple of filmmakers with us tonight, so let's switch over. Awesome, good to see you guys.
Hey.
I'll start by having you introduce yourselves, mention which film you worked on, and how you worked on the film itself, what capacity. We'll start with Sam.
Hey everyone, I'm Sam Osborne, and I worked on the film Little Pirate, and I made it with my creative partner Allison Summers, and between the 2 of us, we did just about everything. I was the animator. We wrote it together, and we provided the voices and edited everything. Two-person operation, so it was a lot of fun.
And Joshua?
Yeah, hey, my name is Joshua Michael Payne. I'm the writer, director, producer for Doesn't Fall Far. Yeah.
All right, cool. Do I hear that pirate voice coming from Sam?
You might hear a little bit of it, yeah.
Into that at some point.
Yeah, it's funny you say that. I've made a lot of animations, and usually when I show them to my family, they're like, "You should get some different people to do voices. They all sound the same." But when I showed this Little Pirate to my dad, he said afterwards, he was like, "Now, was that you doing the pirate?" 'Cause he wasn't sure, which made me really happy. I disguised it well enough that he couldn't tell it was me, so that was good.
For those who might not have seen all the films yet, Sam's film is about truly a little pirate that's animated, that has a pirate's curse, and doesn't fall far is kind of the opposite end of the spectrum. It's a drama. And I would say that Doesn't Fall Far has one of the most awkward scenes in the history of our festival in terms of, oh my, where you just react. And that's a story about a son and the father who discover their secrets simultaneously in a hotel room, I guess you'd say. Let me start with some questions here. So it's a little hard to ask this, but did you take any inspiration from any kind of real life? It could have been not necessarily you, but it could have been somebody you known or knew, or a story you saw somewhere else. We'll start with Sam.
Yeah, obviously I haven't literally seen A Little Pirate, but to me, this short film is, it's sort of about overcoming obstacles and, trying to do what you got to do to have a breakthrough and achieve your dream. And so, that's something as filmmakers we deal with a lot, I think, is it's easy to get discouraged and sometimes feel like you've maybe been put under a pirate curse, but I think if you push through, eventually it'll work itself out. So yeah, I would say that real life kind of informs this a little bit in that way.
Well, that's interesting. Instead of gremlins, it's like little pirates. So that's a good twist on that. Boogeyman. Yeah. Have you ever been to auditions where it just suddenly went wrong? You didn't understand why, or something within yourself?
Oh yeah. I mean, they're always super nerve-wracking, and you can talk yourself up as much as you want ahead of time, but for me, you never know what's going to happen once you get in there. I guess that's why I prefer to, like I said in the intro, I animated it and did the voices, so I kind of don't have to go through that audition process. So, maybe that's my way out.
I'm an animator also, so I can understand that. Like you have the entire production in your hands, though it can be sometimes. So Joshua, how about you? Where did the inspiration come from?
Yeah, so it's definitely not exactly drawn from real life, that's for sure. That'd be pretty wild. But the seed of it, I guess, in some ways is in that when I graduated from high school, in my senior year of high school, my dad came out to our whole family as gay. And, you know, before that, he was a preacher at a Christian church, and it was obviously a very big moment for all of us. And so while certainly nothing remotely like the film, sort of the seed of that experience for me personally was big in sort of becoming this much more heavily dramatized version in the short.
Has he seen the film?
Yeah.
I hope he likes it, right?
Yeah, I mean, he said he liked it. I hope that's true.
I mean, it had Eric Roberts in it, so why not?
Right.
That actually leads to the question. Anita, my wife, who did the drama programming, has always been a big fan of Eric Roberts. So that jumped out at her. One reason she liked the film. He was, you know, definitely A-level star, and he's become just a working actor. He just works.
Mm-hmm.
And he always looks like he's having a good time and professional. How was that experience working with an actor of that status?
Yeah, no, it was interesting, and it was definitely, you know, I've done a number of shorts, but it was the highest caliber, biggest name that I'd worked with. It was great. It was great. I mean, he was real. I was so intrigued how he was going to approach it. You know, like you said, he just is constantly working. Like he is a worker, and I love that about him. But a part of me was like, okay, I hope this isn't just nothing. Like he's just going to be like, another job. But the beautiful thing was, you know, as much as he works, he takes everything super seriously. Totally on accident. I was like cleaning out. The day was over. I was like helping clean out his dressing space for the day, and he had like left some of his script behind. And for my short film, he's done all that. He's worked with Christopher Nolan and Paul Thomas Anderson and all these crazy, amazing directors. And for my little short film, his script that he left behind was totally marked up. Just the work was all there. And I mean, you see it in the film. Like I really think he's great, but just like knowing that, you know, he takes everything that seriously, even, you know, a short film like this.
Oh, that's great to hear. With the going back to Sam, you didn't have actors except for yourself, but you had animation. So did you do the animation yourself?
Yes. Yeah. I've been, I did the animation myself. And like I said, I have a partner that I work with named Allison Summers, and she was provided some of the female voices that you hear in Little Pirate. And we're based here in Nashville, Tennessee. I don't know if you can hear the twang in my voice. Yeah, a little bit, but we're both based here in Nashville, and Allison is a stand-up. She does stand-up comedy around town and a bunch of other different states, and she's an improv artist. Used to work the comedy clubs doing improv a lot before the shutdown. She's, you know, very talented comedian, so I'm lucky to get to work with her, and she's for some reason wants to work with me, which I'm happy to, you know, to do. But yeah, between me and her, we write the stuff and collaborate, and then I animate all of it up. We usually record the audio first and then animate around that. So, which I did while I'm talking. I did watch Josh. I watched your film, and it was very good. Let me just throw that out there.
Thank you. Yours as well.
Yeah. Thank you.
I was cracking up. I loved it.
Oh, good. Yeah. I have to agree with Lee. The most cringy. It's got to be one of the cringiest moments I've seen when the son came walking out of the bathroom in that scene. So I was like, whoa. Yeah.
There's several levels of cringe there. It's not just
I know
for sure.
And going in terms of animation, one thing that's interesting is because it's kind of a very funny plot and funny voice acting that it carries through. You don't need super high-end animation, you know. It's not like full-blown 3D, you know, crew of 100. Mm-hmm. It's pretty basic 2D animation with hinge kind of motion, but it works well. And I think, what's your opinion on that? Is it, as long as your story and acting and voices are solid, that the animation is not as important, or how do you think about that?
Yeah, I would agree with that. You know, animation is very time consuming, so that's part of it. But also, I mean, I've always said I kind of see myself hopefully as a comedy writer or just a writer, you know. So I would say Allison and I definitely emphasize we want it to be a funny, strong script, and the animation. I have a lot of fun doing the animation. Um, but yeah, I mean, as you can, like you pointed out, like there's a couple films in this same block that I watched. I think it was like the first two in the lineup where I was watching it going, man, that animation is just beautiful, you know, and um, the stuff I make's not exactly Fantasia, but I'm happy to hear you say that, you know, you thought it was funny and that the plot was good, because that's really what we're going for. So
Yeah,
um,
I felt that it suited the story. It didn't
yeah,
very slick 3D animation or some other style. You know,
right.
we do have very mixed films in this block. For example, the very last one, Uber Frog. If you guys haven't seen that, check it out.
That
Yeah.
animation is like,
Yeah.
what?
It almost looked real. Yeah.
That's
Crazy.
hardcore, but it works well for what they were doing with it. So, and there's a lot of different styles you can make work. So let's see some more questions. Now, did you make these films pre-pandemic or during the pandemic?
Me or Josh.
Yeah,
Yeah. That's actually, this was actually made, Little Pirate was made sort of a mix of both, because it started out, Allison, that I keep talking about, my that I make the movies with. This started out as just like a 30-second sketch. We had this idea where we were going to have an actor in a play who kept talking like a pirate for some reason, you know, like it was just going to be him rehearsing the play and he keeps talking like a pirate, and the director's going, try that again, but don't do the pirate voice, you know. So we recorded that little sketch right before the lockdown happened, like probably February of last year, about a year ago. And so I kind of had that, and I hadn't animated it yet. And then when the pandemic started hitting and the anxiety was setting in, and oh my gosh, what's happening? I kind of wanted to distract myself, and I just had some inspiration that, like, I think I could build a little 5 to 7 minute short around that little sketch. Like, what if the guy got a curse put on him, and I don't know, somehow I came up with the pirate would be little. I don't know where that really came from. Why not? Well, actually, I do know where that came from. I'm bad about this. You know, sometimes I make stuff that's just very true to life, and I think, like, why are you animating it? Like, you can do anything you want in animation. So I think that was just me going, instead of like a regular size pirate, why don't we make him a little pirate? Because we can do that in animation, you know? So anyways, long answer, but started out pre-pandemic, and then it was to keep my sanity. I worked on this right as the lockdown started, and finished it, you know, as the lockdown started, to kind of keep my mind off of things. So
it kind of worked out. And Josh,
yeah, it did.
Yeah.
For me, we shot this film in December of 2019. So it was a couple months before it really hit us all in March of 2020. But the majority of post-production ended up being, you know, during the pandemic, which luckily you can kind of do mostly remote. So I was glad to be done with all of, you know, the in-person stuff at that point. So we could all kind of just separately work on finishing the film.
Mm-hmm. So Sam, you're in Nashville, and Joshua, where are you located?
I'm in New York City.
New York City, okay. So how do those two places compare? Like, what advantages or disadvantages do you have in being in Nashville and or New York City, you know, in terms of filmmaking? Josh, you want to start?
Sure. Yeah, I mean, New York certainly has a lot of resources, you know. I mean, I guess, I mean, then first of all, we actually, even though most of the crew and myself were based here in New York, we shot in Northeast Pennsylvania, the Scranton area, which is actually where I'm from. It's and I guess that kind of also speaks to your question. And I kind of wanted to shoot this, in addition to shooting where I'm from, out of the city, because of some of the disadvantages that come with New York. Like, for instance, locations here in New York, You go to a coffee shop and say, hey, I would love to film here. You have a beautiful space. They say, that'll be $3,000, because they're used to it. It's nothing special for them. Like, people come in all the time asking to film. When I go to my hometown and say, hey, your diner's beautiful. Do you think I could make this movie with this actor that you might know in it? They're like, yes, please come, bring everybody. And they're so welcoming and happy to have you there. And you're able to get a lot more for less. And so it kind of worked out in that, I love New York and the resources here are incredible, but also kind of works against you in that the area does so much film and television that they're used to it.
Yeah, there's, I guess, that period of innocence for small towns or places that don't have much filmmaking. They're like, yeah, come on in. There's a jaded places where it's like, no, please, no. Pick up my face again. Sam, how's Nashville?
Yeah, I think Josh's answer kind of answers Nashville in a way too. Nashville is definitely known for music primarily, and there's so many. You throw a rock and you can hit 10 super talented musicians. But kind of lesser known, or not something you think about Nashville as is. I mean, there's a great filmmaking scene here, and really great comedy scene. We've got so many funny people, doing stand-up comedy and actors, and we've got a few comedy clubs in town. And so, when it comes time to work on a project, there are lots of willing people. And I've been in Nashville for, I guess, pushing 8 years now. And I actually came from sort of a small town. I grew up in a small town, and I was kind of surprised. I guess this is sort of the advantage over like a place like New York, well-known filmmaking place, is that I was kind of surprised that pretty quickly I was able to get plugged into the filmmaking scene. And, we've got a couple of, short film movie nights around town, independent stuff. And we've got the 48-hour film festival where you make a movie in 48 hours. And if you do that, you're pretty much networked with the scene,
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, so I've loved it. And I think that, and the location stuff you talked about, I mean, I haven't made any live action stuff. I've sort of helped people with live action stuff. I primarily do animation, but it's usually like, hey, my brother owns a barber shop. He'll let us shoot there on Sunday for free, kind of thing. Like it's still got that almost like small town kind of, somebody knows somebody that you can help them get a location to shoot. So yeah, I love it for that's my opinion.
Well, I have a call out that ties you two together, because Joshua, you said you were from Scranton.
Mm-hmm.
So of course, The Office, right?
Right, of course.
And then Michael Scott does a bit where he's doing improv and he keeps playing the same character over and over. You don't let people scoring wherever he is and keep shooting dead.
That's great.
Yeah, no, that show definitely put us on the map. People know Scranton now.
Whether you like it or not. Yeah.
Exactly. No, I love the show. I'm glad I don't secretly hate it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I think it's funny too. I couldn't help but notice that Josh and I are dressed a little similarly, and we both have beds behind us. So we're just, and we're probably just like twins or something. Yeah.
I know, meant to be in the same section.
Yeah, exactly.
So, is this Sam, you made a number of these kind of films before. Joshua, is this your first film, or have you made a number of these?
So I've done a bunch of shorts.
Yeah.
I don't. This might be my 6th or 7th, something along those lines. I'm a bunch of shorts, some web series, things like that. I originally came from a background of acting first. Like, that was my first thing. So a lot of times, what I end up doing is now that I do a lot of behind the camera work, the actors that I know will be looking to try and figure out how to start up their own productions or things like that. So I'll hop on those projects, or sometimes direct them in a script that they wrote. But I've done a few that are totally my thing, like wrote, directed, all of that.
So now you guys have some wisdom. You've been on this festival circuit several times, right? For a number of years. So what have you learned from placing your film on the circuit, having it shown with the audience, you know, between then and now? Like how did you change your filmmaking based on that? And Joshua, if you want to start.
Sure. Man, that's a great question. I think that's true. I think that's something that you might even like not consciously take into account, but you do, like, after having the experience of having your films up on the big screen, and you know, you've seen your own film a million times. So once it's playing, you're not watching your film at all. You're just watching the people in the audience and seeing how they react, and if they're laughing at the right parts, or if they're, you know, being surprised at the right parts. So I think there's something to that. I think in a way for me, it's almost like, in a sense, the opposite. It's like, how do I not work to just like focus on making sure that a moment might like land well with the people watching it, and more make sure it's something that's truthful to me and how I see it and how I feel it, and if it works for me, because that's the only person I can like really know how they're going to react is myself. So I think that's great. It does absolutely change your perception on the people viewing your film to get that opportunity. Even virtually, like, it's been so weird this year because my film was finished literally at the beginning of pandemic, and I was like, oh, well, maybe do a couple virtual, and then the rest will all be, you know, they'll be in person. And the entire run so far has pretty much just been virtual, which has been a new experience in itself. But it's, you know, benefits are hearing people from all over the world who might not have otherwise been in these places, getting a chance to see your film and reacting to it and things like that has been really cool also.
Yeah, it's something we might keep once we go back to the real world, is we might keep the Q&A, so that way people from all over the world can join the Q&A as opposed to having to travel. We usually have a pretty good turnout in person, but, you know, it's still hard because it's expensive. You know, people have to work, so it's great to have people from Nashville, New York, and wherever else be able to tune in on this. So Sam, how's your outlook changed?
Yeah. Well, I was going to say real quick, this festival so far, you know, I've watched several movies and now I'm participating in this Q&A. This has been a really awesomely done virtual festival, and not just kissing up, but I was in a couple of festivals right as the pandemic was starting that were online, and I could tell the organizers were just so stressed, you know, trying to figure out, which I'm sure you guys went through a lot of, you know, hard work and stress, but
sketchy, but we were late enough that other people got to make some mistakes along the way. So
you kind of learn.
Yeah.
But yeah, I definitely love. I don't guess I think about the showing it in front of an audience too much. A little bit when I'm making stuff, but I will say I love, you know, like every filmmaker, I love seeing my stuff shown in front of an audience, and we primarily are, you know, pretty much all we make are comedies. We do try to do story and have some sweetness and some sweet moments in there, but we make comedies. And so for us, obviously we're going, you know, I'm always like, oh yeah, this is going to get a big laugh at this part. And it's always interesting and surprising that sometimes the parts you think are going to get laughs don't get the laugh you thought. And then the parts that you do think are going to get a laugh, or the, you know, unexpected parts get laughs that you know, you're not, you were like, oh, I didn't even realize that was funny, you know, or whatever. And so that's really fun to do. And I guess I probably do think about that sometimes. Like, definitely some of the stuff I've made in the past, I'm like, oh yeah, if we take a nice, maybe put in a little longer pause here, because I feel like the audience is going to be laughing, you know, so it can affect the timing, I guess, in that way. So, but it's all fun.
Yeah, that brings up a question, something I've noticed from being out there, is sometimes a film will play differently in different locations. Have you found any kind of significant difference where you go to one audience and they're just like crickets, and one they're just like dying, rolling around the aisles? Either one of you guys, Sam?
Yeah, I have a good example of that. We had Allison and I, we made a movie called Totstone a few years ago, which is a play on the Western tombstone. And it's a Western movie where all the main characters are tater tots. So it's pretty fun. But it played in several festivals, and it got really good response or whatever. But we were in this festival called, or it got pretty decent response, whatever. But we were in the Florida Animation Festival, it's called, and oh man, people, like the organizers just like showered us with so much praise, which we appreciated. And then when we showed it in person, people were going crazy and just laughing so much. So that's kind of been my joke. That was a couple years ago. That's been my joke. I'm like, those people in Florida, they really appreciate tater tots, So I had that one very specific example of it playing different, and I don't know what it is, but yeah, something about that movie, people in Florida really liked it. So,
well, now you know. Joshua, how about you?
I mean, I don't make as a lot of comedies. Most of mine are dramas, but it's kind of in a similar vein where, the whole festival circuit is so interesting. How you'll do a festival and the audiences and the programmers and everyone will just like be like, hey, just absolutely loved your film, and they would just have such detailed things that they loved about it, and like you could really tell that they weren't just saying it. Mm-hmm. And then there, of course, as every filmmaker knows, there's a whole bunch of festivals that you just don't even get accepted to. So it's like, just considering that, like you go to one festival and the audience and everyone's like, this meant something to me, and then across the board, it's just every other day rejection for, a number of other ones. And then even just between different screenings, people will have, especially when you do Q&As or people ask questions or stuff or something, certain audiences, whether it's like based on their perception or where they're from or who knows, but they'll just ask you something that you might not have even thought of that hit them in a certain way. And I'm like, oh, wow. Like I never intended for that to come across that way or to inspire that thought in you, but I'm glad it did. And it's so interesting to kind of hear that from people.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, we actually have a list of banned questions because we're doing it virtual this year. Like you're not allowed to ask, what camera did you use? How long did it take to shoot? There's probably a few other ones I can't think of right now. Yeah, no, that's true. Q&As do vary by audience also. It depends how engaged they are, what their knowledge is of film in general, if it's early or late, if they're sleepy or whatever it happens to be. So, so in terms of next projects, what are you guys thinking about doing? Sam?
Allison and I are always writing stuff down. We actually post fairly frequently on our Instagram, which Instagram on a regular post allows about a minute long video, and so we post fairly frequently, just little short minute or less videos. So we're always working on those, and then otherwise, Allison is working on a live action film right now. It's going to be a collection of things, and I think I'm going to contribute an animation to it that involves a clown and his troubles with dating life. So working on that, and we've also got a couple series ideas, little like short web episodic web series type ideas that we've been throwing around. So lots of good stuff to think about and work on. So.
Cool. And Joshua?
So I have a few things in the works. I'm shooting next month a documentary, my first short documentary, which will be exciting, about certain schools in Brooklyn and the Bronx. Doing, hopefully, if things are good, in the fall, a pilot with a friend of mine, which will lean a little more into the comedy realm, which is exciting. And then my hope for next year is to, fingers crossed, and get all the ducks in a row, but to shoot my first feature, hopefully.
Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, awesome.
Yeah, I was going to ask if you guys are interested in moving into the long form, and you are, Joshua, hopefully. So that's great. Sam, are you have interest in that direction?
Yeah, maybe someday if the right idea came along. So far, it seems like most of my ideas are better suited for the short film format. But yeah, I'd definitely be open to that someday if, like I said, if the right idea came along. So we'll see.
Okay. So where do you guys draw inspiration? Are there any particular filmmakers, comedians, genres that you pull inspiration from? Sam?
Yeah, I mean, I grew up watching a lot of cartoons and things like that, and uh, I appreciate good comedy shows. You know, I watch a lot of TV and uh, stuff like that. Kind of seeps in and my inspiration. And it's kind of weird to say, but I bring this up sometimes, or I guess it's not weird to say, but I have an older brother who is very, very funny in my opinion, and I feel like I would just sort of copy things that he would think were funny and do, you know, and he almost kind of taught me to be funny in a way, you know, like, I don't know, just go into the grocery store and he'd be like, did you hear the way the cashier said that? You know, like, and he would do the voice, you know, he'd be like, that'll be 7:15, you know, or whatever, like, could do voices. And I think that's where it kind of taught me. So a lot of my inspiration, not necessarily for Little Pirate, but a lot of the inspiration for the stuff I make comes from just seeing stuff in day-to-day life. One of the cartoons I'm working on right now for our Instagram, just a little minute-long cartoon, is when you go through the drive-through lines at a fast food restaurant and they ask you to pull forward, and we'll bring it out to you. And I just kind of had the thought, I'm like, it's kind of BS that you have to pull forward at a fast food. Like, I thought this was a fast food restaurant, you know? And so I have a document and I write that down as that could be a cartoon idea. Like, man freaks out on fast food worker for having to pull forward, you know? So just being observant in day-to-day life, and you can twist just about anything into a cartoon idea. So that's what I do.
What does your brother do? Is he just funny, just natural?
Oh, yeah. You know, I mean, he's got an office job, but I talk to him on the phone and I'll just be crying, laughing. He's very talented, very funny. And we actually, we're pretty close together in age. And so we actually lived together in college, and we wrote a lot of scripts together back then, like just on a, broke college kids on a Friday night or whatever. We would sit down and just write little scripts that we never did anything with, but we wrote like 1 million of them. And I should probably look at those now that I'm bringing it up, but he's a really funny guy, and I'll still get his input on stuff from time to time. Just call him up and say, what do you think about this? So yeah,
he's kind of like a silent associate. He kind of,
yeah, it is. It's someone that you can rip off their ideas and they won't sue you. So
in the family.
Yeah, it's in the family.
Joshua, how about you?
Oh man, that's such a hard question. I feel like I do get a lot of inspiration from, some things in real life and some experiences. I find like, I kind of briefly touched on it before, but like my background is kind of like growing up and like so heavily involved with my parents and both grandparents on both sides, leaders of churches, and then kind of that flopping on its head. So sort of the cross between spirituality and sexuality is like a very common thread in my work. So I don't know if that's an inspiration as much as just something that I like keep going back to as far as like a theme. But I mean, I just love movies in general. Like I watch them all the time. So I guess in a way I pull like little things from everything, like whatever, movie I'm obsessed with that came out that year. I'm probably like pulling a little bit from that, like whatever's most recent. If I were making a movie right now, it would definitely be heavily influenced by like Nomadland, which just came out, which I think is phenomenal. Just a little bit of everything.
Mm-hmm. You guys seem like you're pretty, relatively early in your careers, right? Is there anything you're looking forward to in terms of development in the industry? It could be technology. It could be the fact that it's moving away from Hollywood. I don't know. What do you think about that, Sam?
Let me think. Things I'm looking forward to. As far as I try to just sort of do my thing and try to remind myself that, I'm doing this for myself for fun. And I think that helps keep me sane a little bit. But, obviously, as far as like getting noticed, and this might not be exactly answering your question, but as far as, you know, big things happening for me personally, I try not to think about that too much, but obviously that would be, you know, great if it did happen. But otherwise, I just try to keep my nose to the grindstone. And I guess as far as technological advancements and stuff like that in Hollywood, if they wanted to, I don't know if it'd be a technological advancement, but if they wanted to pick up my cartoons as a series or something, I think that would be good for society. You know, a good step forward. So that would be what I'm looking forward to. But otherwise, I just try to remind myself that this is fun, and this is soul soothing and all that good stuff, and hopefully something will work out. So
here, you know, it's important to have that passion. So
yeah.
Oh, that's so good. Like, I need to do that way more often, because like I obviously love it, but I take it so seriously, and I'm like, gotta advance, gotta do this. So I mean, that's a good reminder even for me to hear, like, I love this and this is fun. So I just need to like tell myself that. But as far as your question, like about the technological advancements, I think I think what's really great and is, you know, how streaming is such a thing. Like, streaming is, you know, they're literally launching like Paramount Plus like next month or something, just another one on top of like the 20 platforms we have now. There's just so many areas seeking content at all times, which is, you know, really, really nice for independent filmmakers in a way that, you know, I feel like it was so much harder to do not even that long ago. So I guess that's my favorite thing, you know, just seeing the constant area or new places coming up or that are looking for content, and for people to hopefully, you know, make things and share their voice and projects.
From my point of view, I feel like it's a golden era of original content right now. We'll look back at this later and go, whoa, that was a really nice peak, because they're pushing so much money at this original content. And it's this great long form content where you can really develop the characters. So I definitely can see that with drama, anything dramatic. Sam, how do you feel about the potential for much more animation? Seems like there's more animation out there now.
Yeah, and you know, especially during this pandemic and lockdown, it seems like people are really hungry for animation. And I do like, if you watch some other films that I've made and some of the little shorts I make, there is a lot of times like a sweet moment or a dramatic twist or a weird moment. So yeah, I think I could see myself, you know, sort of doing something with a lot more character development and a longer form kind of series type deal. But yeah, and pandemic aside, I feel like there's just so much great animation out there right now anyways, you know. Rick and Morty is probably one of the best shows ever made, live action or animated, and it happens to be animated. And so, yeah, that is exciting. And I think Josh gave a really good answer to that last question about, you know, the streaming services. You know, earlier you mentioned that my animation is not like super advanced. And I mean, I see stuff sometimes on streaming services that's even less advanced. And that kind of makes me go, man, you know, if you got a good idea and someone sees it, then you can be on Amazon Prime, you know, or whatever. So,
Adult Swim is full of that.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
4 frames per minute if you're lucky. But the voices, a lot of them, the voice talent's so great and the writing's so gonzo, and they got great backgrounds, so you don't care.
Yeah, exactly.
It's kind of nice. There's all these different levels you can hit if the content's interesting. So yeah, it's more democratic.
Yeah, and kind of like I said earlier, you know, I constantly try to remind myself. My friend Andrew, who's a graphic artist, actually brought this up. You know, he's told me, he's like, what's the point of doing animation if you're not going to get a little weird with it, you know, or a little out of this world? And I kind of have to constantly remind myself of that you can anything you can imagine, you can kind of cook up on the page, you know, and so that's exciting and opens up so many doors for interesting ideas and concepts. So I think there's a lot of hope in the animation world right now. So
yeah, I think so.
Yeah.
How about this question? Since you guys have been around a few years and you've made a few films, what advice would you give to somebody who's thinking about making a short film and trying the festival circuit? Any words of wisdom for these people out there? Sam?
Yeah, I have some words of wisdom, and that is to borrow from Nike, just do it. It's been so surprising to me. And I mean, I'm not tooting our own horns, but you know, everyone has like imposter syndrome and confidence issues or whatever. But I have been so surprised that I can make something sitting, like literally where I'm sitting at right now is my animation desk. I can make something sitting right here, and then submit it to a bunch of festivals, and sort of like Josh said earlier, it gets rejected by a lot of them, but also it gets into a lot of them, you know, it gets into several of them. And I just sit back and go, oh my goodness, I can't believe that, you know, I'm like, if you're on the festival circuit, you feel legit, you know?
Yeah.
So that would be my advice is if you have an idea, just go for it. Just start, you know, you kind of like the cliche thing of the journey of 1,000 miles starts with a single footstep, you know, just do it. Cause lots of people worse than you are doing it, you know, and so just go for it.
Trust me.
Yeah.
Josh, how about you?
Oh man, yeah, no, that's so good. My answer was probably going to be super similar, but it kind of also ties into your other question is like, and people have said this too, but there's like, it's so easy to make films now. Like, I think the first film that I did, well, I guess one of the first films I did that kind of did well on the festival circuit was me and a couple friends and a DSLR camera that I've had for years, and just like the simple light kit, and it was like, the film was called Fire Escape, and we shot it fully on the Fire Escape, and that was it. And so, yeah, people like I just know a lot of people who are always, you know, trying to figure out a way to get their project off the ground, or feel like they have to put up a huge, expensive Kickstarter campaign or something. And it's like, I mean, there's a time and place for that, sure, but you know, the best way you're going to learn is to just dive in, just like, you know, and if your first one's no good, like nobody's first one's any good. So like, don't feel bad. You learned something, and now for the next one, you won't make the same mistake. And so like, I feel really strongly about that. Like, you know, make it, do it. If it doesn't work, try again, you know, and then hopefully the next time it does.
All right. I think that's a good place to wrap it up. We're pretty much out of time. So thank you, Joshua and Sam. Good talking to you.
Yeah.
Hopefully see you around the festival here for the next
For
few days.
sure.
Yeah, absolutely. And thank you so much for having us on for this, and for, you know, selecting our films.
Yeah, this has been great. Thank you so much. I've loved it. So.
All right. I'll see you guys out there. Thank you.
All right. Thank
bye.
you.
Bye.